and then they're gone now. Doing something that I guess not everybody can do, and it wasn't meant for me to do. And I mean, I was a young alcoholic, right? Budding alcoholic at that time. So my discharge papers were quick and forthwith for me. I don't. It's going to be hard to believe, but I had some disciplinary issues. I wasn't didn't like being told what to do. So anyway, every year when this comes around, it kind of reinforces one of the reasons why I try to work this program as best I can and learn new practices, is because I do feel somewhat responsible, right? In AA, and some of you will know this, there's a responsibility statement that I am responsible for those who reach out for help. There's another part of me that feels responsible to do better because of those people who do so much. And whether it be soldiers, first responders, so emergency responders, police, fire, EMS, all the things that I get to take for granted every day, right? That people do so that I can take it for granted. So that I can come here, sit with you, and tell you pretty much whatever I want to. Right? I can pretty much tell you anything. I mean, I can't swear anymore. They told me I can't. I can't up here, right? They're recording it for YouTube, so I can't swear anymore, or I get in trouble. So I try to practice a little bit better every day. And as the years have gone by now in sobriety, I've really become a huge fan of steps 10, 11, and 12. Because it's about practice. Everything in those steps is about practice for me. And practice means that I'm ready for game time, when the games come, right? And I was reminded, this guy told me about how he doesn't pray unless things are bad. But he has trouble not relapsing, right? He has a relapse issue. And I said, well, why don't you pray when things are good? So that you can be ready for when things are bad. And he said, well, that's like practice. I just want to play the games. And then I was reminded of this old clip from Sports Center. Allen Iverson, I don't know if anyone knows who that is. He was one really good basketball player, never won a championship. And he's famous for his quote of, "You're talking about practice," because he didn't show up for practice. It's no wonder why he didn't win a championship, right? Because honest, and I don't know if that's really why, but it kind of stood out to me this week as I was going to meetings and working with clients and sponsees, and listening to probably what I used to think of spiritual practices, right? Well, I don't need to do it unless I'm in trouble. The problem is that when I'm in trouble, it's too late, right? Unless I've prepared myself for those moments. So unless I've engaged in practice, and I've definitely been a testament of that theory through the years in sobriety, is that when I'm not practicing in the meantime, what happens when game time comes is I'm not ready. I don't know what to do. And so what people like Pete and Brad and my dad and other spiritual, I'll say spiritual people, but I don't know about that. Spiritual practitioners have taught me is that it's important to be diligent, right? So this last year, lots of people know that I had a couple back surgeries, and anyone who's had surgery can relate to this. There's something that changes in you afterwards. And I don't know if it's depends on the surgery, but of course they didn't tell me that. When I was signing the documents that I could be dead, right? I could be paralyzed, I could be all these things. Not one person said to me, Dave, you're probably going to feel different. You're going to feel spiritually different, right? Because I had no idea. And what it brought up for me, and apparently it's pretty common, is it brought back my depression. Something I used to deal with every day, right? When I was active and participating and drinking and using, I was the guy who every few months would try to kill himself. right? And I didn't even know that I had depression. Like, I just thought that's what people do, right? Like, this is what happens when life gets hard. You just try to kill yourself. At least that's what I did. So what the surgery brought in me was this old feeling of like desperation deep inside. Everything is great, right? Like, I can walk again, and the pain is gone. I had the nerve pain in my leg for 3 years. It's gone, right? So physically, I feel fantastic. So the doctor says, "How are you feeling?" I say, "I'm feeling great. I can walk, 10 to 20 kilometers a day, depending on how stiff I am and whether it's snowing like it is. Because then I can walk half a kilometer to and from my car and then to the church." So they asked me how I was doing, and I said, "Doing fine. You're feeling great," right? But little did I know that what I was feeling in between those moments was depression again. It was starting to come up more and more and more. But luckily for me, luckily that God has placed me around the people that I have been placed around. Every time I sit and pray, and I look for answers, which is my meditation, whether it be at meetings or simply going and working with other alcoholics, the answers come. And the answers are always more service to others, more work, right? Step work, reading, praying, whatever it is. And gradually what that got me to was, first of all, the recognition that I was in fact depressed again. Something I hadn't felt in years, right? Second, it got me to a point where I could go and get some help. Because that's what I need to do, or else I know what I'll do, right? And that is a result of practicing. Step 11, step 10, and step 12, right? Because there was a time when I wouldn't have reached out for help, right? Now, there's probably no accidents on God's green goodness, well, God's white goodness today, right? But I wouldn't have done it before. It would have been like every other sad story of the alcoholic who's in recovery, right? Because I am no different, if I'm not practicing. It was really difficult for me, even though I was practicing, to not get caught up in that abyss again. But thankfully, this practice works. So when I think of step 10, when I do an honest inventory, and I take an honest approach to addressing these things, right? What needs to change? I'm starting to feel like I am going backwards, right? And sure, there was surgery, there was all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm turned 40. Oh my God. I turned 10 in the summer, 10 years clean and sober, and I turned 40, and I had surgery, and I was like, oh, woe is me. I've turned 40 now, it's over, obviously, right? I mean, as you can see, right? Once you get over 40, it's all downhill from there. Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't talking to you, William, but now I am. An honest approach to addressing what needs to be addressed. I usually find myself at the center of my thoughts, even if it seems harmless. Unfortunately for me, that's my ego. Whenever I become the center of my thoughts. So when I'm sad, right? I'm depressed. I am this. I am that, right? What has been taught to me is that when I start to feel those things, okay, I have been taught to pray. Now, we have been given a wonderful gift in AA and the other 12-step programs. We have been given prayers directed at removing us from our ego. Those prayers are very specific in their wording, right? And the one scripture that I chose for tonight, and it's a very short one, and you'll all be grateful for that. Let's see here. Where did I put it? Psalms 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. I just want to know these simple things, these simple prayers. What am I doing? I want to talk to God. I want to communicate. Because when I start thinking about step 12, which is obviously every step is connected. Nothing is disconnected, just like we're not disconnected. We can disconnect ourselves from each other when we're walking around with our phones and doing all those things, but we're still connected. Just like the steps. So when I think of step 12, what is the first part of step 12? Yeah, having had a spiritual awakening. That's what I'm trying to have. I'm trying to have a spiritual awakening. How can I do that? As a result of these steps. Thank you, Lord. If Brady was here, he would have done it. And balked, right? So as a result of these steps, this is where I'm going, or where I hope to be going, right? If I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs, it's more likely that I'm going to have a spiritual awakening. Part of this program that has been shown to me, and I've seen, like, thank God, I haven't had to drink over the mistakes I've made or the mistakes others have made. Or I should say choices that I've made. Because nothing is a mistake. Okay? But I've seen both sides of the coin. And I know you all have too, if you've been around for any amount of time. We've all seen the old-timer who's like the bleeding deacon, as the book talks about. And then we have like the wise timer. Right? One of the things that I noticed this week that kind of popped out is I got a chance to talk to an old-timer. And I'm just going to say old-timer. I'm going to put any judgment. But I got a chance to talk to someone who I don't normally talk to. And it was like blatantly obvious. And he said it. He said as much. He said, well, I don't pray. And I was like, I am not surprised. That doesn't surprise me. Right? I would have been shocked to hear that he spent 3 hours a day in prayer and meditation. That would have shocked me. I probably would have said, okay, I am doing it wrong. Right? Because I need to obviously change and approach this differently. Then there's other old-timers who've been around for twice as long as this person, and their biggest thing is prayer and meditation. And when they talk, you know. Right? I know. I can tell. And so that's where practice. I go back to practice. And there's not just one way to pray and meditate. This is what old-timers, and not just old people have taught me, but old-timers have taught me, is that there's many ways to do it. But the one thing has always been consistent when they tell me anyway, is they don't pray to themselves, and they try to pray to something bigger than them. So not another person. Right? So these are the consistent themes amongst people that I've seen and that I kind of look up to, as much as I can look up to people, right? That's the theme. I just need to pray to something bigger than me. And it's not another person. It's not a group of people. It may be their consciousness, right? But it's not people. So when I pray to this thing, the universe, God, the Creator, whatever a person needs to call it, okay, that is the act of asking. It's all connected. The only way I'm going to get that spiritual awakening in step 12 is when I put it out of me. Right? Now I work with people who don't believe in God or a Creator or anything. Right? And I work with people who meditate and pray, and they talk about praying to themselves, because the answer is within me. I don't know if that's true. It's not for me. The answer is not within me unless someone else has given it to me. Because I have a problem, and it's a mental obsession. It starts in my mind. So I cannot think my way clear of this problem. So chances are, if I have the answer on my own, it's probably not the right answer. I've proven that time and time again, that when I answer my own questions, far off from the truth, right? But when I go and I sit with other people who can like look at my problem objectively, then the answers come, right? But that's just my take on it. I've been taught that this higher power greater than myself, has to be something beyond me, right? Because if it's not, then it's just of my creation. And we talked about it earlier today in the codependency workshop, where and I'll close with this. Well, almost. Not quite. But I'll almost close with this. Is that God is not of me. I am of it. I am of Him. I am a part of it. I am not it. So when I sit down and I close my eyes, I cannot say, I have the answer in me. I am the answer to my problem. I am not. I am not. I don't know how it works for other people. If that works for you, then please continue. I do not want to dissuade anyone. But if I can create God, then it's not necessarily a God worthy of me, right? And I'm probably not worthy of it, because it's probably just an extension where I say, oh, well, I should probably have a Porsche in 5 years, so I will it because I am God, right? I don't really like Porsches, but that was a bad example for me. It's just having a car is nice, right? So, I am of God, and not the other way around. And more practice of step 11 has taught me these things. And in step 11, I try to practice step 3 and step 7 prayers, some of the step 4 prayers, right? And try to unravel more and more of that onion, okay, and the ego. Because the more I live in ego, the less I'm connected to God. The less I'm connected to God, the less I'm connected to you. Because of my own accord, I am all alone, right? All alone, and of course, you have nothing to tell me. But that's just not true. Those are the old tapes. So I try to do it as best I can. So I'm going to read this to close, because I did run out of time. Even ran a minute over. Because the steps have really allowed me to get out of the way and let God show me who I am, as opposed to who I thought I was when I first came in, and who I think I am sometimes still today. I'm going to read this. Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And I think that sums up step 12. Right? That saying. If our light is shining, because it says it in the book, how can I transmit something I don't have? But as we get through the steps, our light starts to shine. And if any one of you's worked with anyone who's new and watched that light come back in their eyes, then you know what I'm talking about. And I have yet to experience anything greater. Okay, except for the birth of my niece. But other than that, I have yet to experience a better connection to God or human beings than when you see that light come on, when someone stays clean and sober and starts to do for others. It's amazing, right? So that's what this is all about, right? So if you care to join me in the step 7 prayer. Thank you. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all, good and bad.